Ahoy! Today we're talking about upcoming things in Smite, some more teasers for Tiamat, as well as a Q&A that Ajax did talking about various upcoming things in Smite, things that are not planned, and guards and all that kind of stuff, which went on for 3 hours and I'm going to summarize that for you. Let's begin with the Tiamat teasers. The Smite Twitter account has been posting quite a few images over the past few days. The first one is this, which had the caption, "A beautiful creation indeed. We are all monsters." I would think, based on the caption and on the image, this refers to one of the creatures that Tiamat can summon of some kind, even though on the side we see multiple other patterns as well. We see some snake-like shapes, so maybe this even refers to multiple creatures. This next picture is the caption, "Go forth my children and take over this land. It all belongs to us." This caption seems to once again hint at the spawnable creatures that she has in her kit, since it specifically refers to her children, which is what she spawns. The creature depicted here seems to be different from the other one though I can't really tell what it is, and that makes sense since it's likely that she'll be able to spawn multiple different creatures. The third image is this. The caption, "Arise my children, burn away the unworthy." To me, this kind of looks like some form of tornado, which reminds me of a trailer where she breaks out of the water, yet at the same time the caption here is "burn away the unworthy," which doesn't really make sense with the picture to me because this doesn't look like fire, but maybe it is some sort of fire tornado, blue fire maybe, purple fire, and that's why it's depicted that way. Can't say for sure, but we can be pretty certain that it refers to Tiamat as well, since obviously she's been announced as the next goddess already. And this is all referring to the upcoming patch notes, which are coming on February 3rd at 3 PM ET. And now let's talk about what Ajax had to tell us. So this was a Q&A he did right before Season 8 started on his own stream when he was playing Bloodborne, and he was basically just answering questions while he was playing. That's why the whole thing was 3 hours. He basically just answered questions in between whenever somebody came in and asked a question. I've sorted Ajax answers a little bit into different categories, and we're going to begin with answers regarding guard balance. Keep in mind that all the perspectives that follow here are Ajax perspective or Ajax answer and not my own. First one is Loki. The Loki rework is seen as successful and will not be reverted. He also still works as an assassin, maybe with some bruiser items. Bastet is not very popular at all at the moment, which obviously contributes to her being reworked. Ajax says that Zeus is actually very good at the moment and in the top 30 in normal conquest, or was right before Season 8 started, but not in ranked. He also specifically stated that Zeus does not need a stun. Anubis balance is not seen as problematic. He knows that beginners struggle more against Anubis, but people learn to play against Anubis over time, and he is generally perceived as weaker on higher levels. Therefore, nerfing him would probably not go over well with the community in general. Cthulhu is a little underpowered now, slightly below average, but a lot of people consider him strong, so overall Ajax says he's probably in a good spot. Amaterasu could use a buff, again this was before Season 8 started, but her movement speed aura is very strong, so if she gets buffed, it's probably not going to be her movement speed. Ajax wasn't working on Smite yet when Nox came out or when she was reworked, but he thinks that old Nox was not good, she was bad design, and her ult should never come back in any form. It is unique, but that doesn't make it good. Shivalanki's ultimate will not get any buffs, it's still considered very strong due to the team-wide blind. There seems to be a common misconception that Janus can no longer one-shot players, which he's still able to, they just have to have lost some health beforehand. And by the way, this is not Ajax saying this, but I watched a Zero stream and he figured out a build where you can one-shot anyways, so it's actually possible with some item effects. Smite players don't like characters that lose lane but win the game, which is for example why Amaterasu received some buffs to her early game and nerfs to her late game. Late game guards are mostly valued in the pro scene. Another example of this is Kali. Jormungandr will probably need buffs because of the damage reduction on the new items. HiRez has already been considering that. Artemis is really good now and was actually picked at Worlds as well. Ajax's statement on Baba Yaga was, "We hear your feedback, we can't promise any buffs, but we're working on it." And something that doesn't quite fit in this category, but it is talking about individual gods as well, is that Tiamat is a mage. Ajax had to repeat that, I think, 3-4 times during the stream. It was already announced at Worlds, and actually everyone was able to find out at that point. But apparently a lot of people are still not aware of it, so it's once again confirmed that Tiamat is indeed a mage. He did not specify her role, though I had another video speculating about that. Ajax didn't say anything further in that regard. Now let's talk a little bit about future plans. More tank item changes are planned in the foreseeable future. This is already in the roadmap section of the patch notes. Custom modes where you can create your own settings is something that is maybe in the future of Smite, but not anytime soon, since it's actually very hard to do. There are apparently a lot of difficulties with even implementing simple things like the mode of the day effects. In regards to the question if Smite is ever coming to mobile, Ajax only said that he thinks it would be difficult to play on touchscreen controls. The upcoming map changes will be thematic and could include color and lighting changes on the map. The changes won't be crazy big, it'll be something new, some art changes, and not completely remaking the map, which makes perfect sense. In regards to Smite coming to the new consoles, the Xbox Series X and the PS5, Ajax had nothing to announce yet, but it's something they would love to do and are looking into. There will definitely be more crossover passes, but Ajax can't talk about that yet. There is no team size confirmation for the new Clash Siege mode / yet. This one's actually from Isaiah. Smite music themes with K-pop artists would be sweet, but don't take this as a confirmation that this would happen. I think it's something that would probably be very, very expensive. Letting each person ban one god in ranked like other games do it is a cool idea, and HiRez has been thinking about that. Somebody jokingly asked when we could get Shrek as a god, and Ajax very seriously responded, "If we could get Shrek, I put him in the game for sure. I wouldn't even think twice about it." And honestly, I could see that. Maybe less as a god, but more as a skin. But even as a god, it would probably be such a huge meme and bring so many people to Smite just because they're talking about Shrek as a god in Smite, that with the gods being a little bit less restricted to the original gods anyway, with some humanoid gods and everything that we have now, why not? The much bigger barrier here is of course licensing that, and I don't think they will ever have the opportunity to do that. HiRez might be looking into the visual representation of cooldowns on ability icons soon, so that it doesn't look like abilities are off cooldown before they actually are. Next, we have some changes that are currently not planned, or some things that HiRez specifically does not want to do. They stopped updating the ability icons because everyone just complained about them. Even though they thought they looked nicer, the reception was almost exclusively negative, so they figured we're just gonna keep the old ones. The gold chalice was removed from the jungle because it was not fun, and there's enough going on the new map already anyways. Smite can't move to a newer version of the Unreal Engine. They would have to redo the game entirely, and people also overestimate what an engine can do. A lot of games just update their engine internally over time, see for example the Elder Scrolls series, and you can get many of the benefits of a new engine without having the engine itself by just applying changes. The current engine of course still holds Smite back from some things, but it's overall very technical stuff. Mage supports are not likely since they are very hard to make, since people still want to tank, and so they basically just end up being healers. Multiple versions of Conquest at the same time are unlikely. If anything, other modes like Joust or Arena would get different themed versions. Ability reflection as an ability is a technical nightmare and not really good because you'd miss most long-range shots if you're trying to reflect someone's ranged ability, unless you're looking exactly in their face in that very moment, basically. Attack chain damage is unlikely to be changed. Attack chains are usually just changed for feel issues, and at the moment HiRez is looking into Terra and Bastet in that regard because of their long warm-ups on the basic attacks, which they for example changed for Daji. But changing the hit chain damage would be a very drastic change and is therefore usually not done. It was done for Loki in between, but then also averted. Characters where these things might happen are the ones that have unusual attack chains in the first place, like Izanami, Heimdall or Erlang Shen. There probably won't be an Ajax skin in Smite because Ajax thinks it's boring and there wouldn't be much demand. The current Sobek skins will not be changed with the remodel, only the recolors and the mastery skins, and the other options basically stay as retro options. There are no additional Gold Fury types planned at the moment. Portal Demon will not be coming back. Additional win conditions in Conquest aside from killing the Titan will not happen. Ajax very specifically said, "I hate that idea." Buying stats for gold is something that was in the closed beta of Smite, and everyone said it was terrible, so it's very unlikely to return. Robin Hood does not seem wanted as a god by the community, and keep in mind this was before the whole Wall Street bet thing went on, so probably even less so now. New gods no longer have dance emotes because they're very expensive to make and nobody bought them. Tier 2 skins are no longer being made for the same reason, nobody bought them. Ajax thinks it would be too strong if you could get additional starter items beyond your first one. He thinks that the only way to keep them balanced in the first place is to only make the upgrades available in late game and only allow you to get one. Cupid will not be labeled as a healer in Assault since his heal is so much lower compared to other healers. When asked if he was interested in any other characters from the Cthulhu mythos, Ajax said, "Just Cthulhu." And now we have some different general points, starting with the big one, the PS4 transfer of skins and stuff to other platforms. You can't transfer PS4 to PC because we're still in negotiations for it. We would love to do cross-progression. It's still possible that it may happen in the future, but we're not making a lot of moves at the moment. Sony has made it a lot harder than Microsoft and Xbox and Nintendo did. You'd have to reprogram a significant amount of the game to meet their standards, which we think are unrealistic. It's not purely a business decision, it's a technical decision. It's much easier to do this on a new game, which is why Rogue Company, for example, offers it and Smite doesn't. Ajax said, "I don't want to blame Sony, it's a difficult decision for both of us. It's just unfortunate that Sony is more strict than Nintendo or Microsoft in that regard." I gotta say, I really wonder what the requirements from Sony are here, but we'll probably never find out, and maybe one day it'll just happen. Changing Clash and Siege to Slash is unrelated to Conquest. I would speculate it's probably more related to the relatively low population of both modes. You can report people for boosting on low population servers like SEA, but usually it's not a big issue since they mostly tried a duel in the first place and nobody really cares about a boosted duo rank. When Ajax was asked about datamining, he said datamining is not great, but it's not a big deal either. People who are excited to look at datamining can look at datamining, and then the rest of us can ignore it. Generally, HiRez is not as focused on community skin events anymore, even though they still did that, for example, for the Valentine skin, but more keeping an eye out what skin concepts are popular in the community and are hyped a lot, and then get the license from the artists and compensate them for that. When it comes to the size of the player base, Xbox, PS4 and PC are actually all even in player numbers right now. This is also very interesting because it tells us something about the total number of players. If we had roughly 30,000 active players on PC recently, and both PS4 and Xbox are on the same level, then that would mean we'd roughly have 90,000 concurrent players on all platforms at the moment, which would be a pretty solid number. Ajax said that Smite does fly under the radar a little bit, but that's not the worst thing in his opinion. And I can see where it's coming from. I think if a game gets too popular, there's also a higher risk of it dropping off more, and there's a lot more pressure on the team working on it. So as long as the game is doing well and is healthy and is steadily at least keeping up or slightly growing, it may not even be in everyone's interest to have it massively blow up all of a sudden. Ajax can't tell us if any more Babylonian gods are planned. When asked if HiRez or the team watches speculation videos about upcoming things, Ajax said they actually watch those type of videos all the time. For example, the patch notes reviews, especially from all big content creators, because they want to see what people are excited about and how they feel about new changes. Here we are, 3 hours broken down to 15 minutes. If you appreciate the effort and you're new to the channel, feel free to hit the sub button and maybe the bell, so you get notified of other upcoming videos. Other than that, I hope to see you for the next one soon. Duke Sloth, out.